Hey everybody. This video, I want to go into, I guess, just some afterthoughts about the last video, which I was talking about, how we sort of develop boundaries and they're artificial. You know, we set limitations and impose them on ourselves, and we make things more complex than they really are. Um, and the way to sort of alleviate that is really to not make things more complex and overanalyze, but just to return to simplicity, and that is the intention of meditation and contemplative practices. But I mean, one question that arises, I think, very quickly is, at least if you're, if you study a lot of biology and evolution and science, why do we have an ego? Why do we set up boundaries? Um, Now, the answers to these questions, and these questions themselves, um, won't do you much good if you want to sort of return to simplicity. This is just, you know, analytical stuff. So I recommend seeing it that way and not seeing this as, well, I mean, it could help you understand yourself and your ego a little bit more if you see it from an evolutionary perspective, but it won't necessarily help your practice and your daily meditation. So that being said, as a forewarning, um, one of the theories about having, developing an ego, of course, is survival. Um, we as a species have a highly, at least relatively speaking, a highly developed emotional and psychological um, ability or cognitive faculties, and the sense of self proved to be advantageous in the past. If we have stake in ourselves emotionally, since we're not all instinct, um, if we have stake in ourselves and our own survival, um, even psychologically and emotionally, we'll have a better drive to survive. And that, yes, that means the ego or the self and these boundaries are, competitive. They can be violent. They can be selfish, jealous, um, frantically always trying to figure things out. I mean, the ego is very much like this. It makes sense from an evolutionary point of view um, that we would have developed this sort of thing. Now, um, it also makes sense because we have sort of the tendency to almost like a drive to know things, and that has also been very positive for us in the past. Um, in the past, mind you, though, we've needed that sort of drive to some degree to be able to sit here and talk on through this medium. We've always had this drive to figure things out, to deconstruct, understand things, solve puzzles, look for patterns and concepts. This is built into our structure, our way of thinking. Um, it's not bad and it's not good. It was advantageous for a time. And simply stating this doesn't mean necessarily that, oh, I can't help it. I was born with an ego. Why do I want to get rid of it? There's nothing to get rid of to begin with. But secondly, I mean, it was good for a time, but we're not necessarily going out in the jungle or fighting for caves anymore. We're in a different way of life, but it doesn't mean that. I just find it very interesting that a lot of the sages and the mystics haven't necessarily told us to fight against our own nature, but have sort of told us, look, we developed these cognitive abilities. They didn't say it like that, obviously, but, the monkey mind, the overanalyzing, overthinking, grasping ego or self, has been grasping all this stuff. We don't need to do that, and perhaps we're doing that, and maybe it's causing us more pain than necessary, because at this point, maybe that's something we have to let go of. Um, and the only way to do that is to return to that simplicity, to break the habit of the mind that's overanalyzing, to return to simple being nature. And I mean, people might argue conceptually, look, how is this possible? If it's built into us, we're gonna have to fix this every single generation, or it's like correcting us as like fighting nature. Maybe these things are good to have. Maybe they were good to have. Um, and I think accepting them and accepting ourselves as we are is good too, because if we say, I am this ego, I am this self, I am overanalyzing, I'm overthinking, um, then, and we say, I must become something else, which is the still mind, the the Buddha, I must attain Satori. That's an abstraction too. That's just, creating a story out of this, a pattern, where really just it's returning to the immediate moment. So it's bad to see this. I mean, it's gonna make things more confusing than it really is if we see this as something that we have to fight against. Um, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, like I think he recently made a. I think I'm probably gonna make a video about this too, but he made he did a lecture recently in which he stated that he thinks that the human race may be coming to an end soon, and nothing lasts forever, including humans. He didn't say anything about what would happen after. He was just saying that acceptance is very important. Before you can change at all, you have to accept and simply be. Um, so we have to sort of accept our nature and to sort of be here and now and present with ourselves. I mean, that's the only way we're gonna grow, because then that's authentic. Then it's natural development instead of something that's forced and we're trying to become something, and it really only ends up taking us in circles and loops and overanalyzing things. So even if we are evolutionarily speaking, um, even if we developed a sense of self because of that, that doesn't somehow trap us um, to always be like this, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's an excuse either to perpetuate our behavior. Um, we sort of always use the past to perpetuate our behavior, and our bad habits, so to speak, and our issues and our insecurities. Um, Even if it's our evolutionary past in this case, but let's even that is missing the point, because if we're always using the past, what is the past? It's a concept. It's still an ideal. It's still a thought. Stop overthinking things. Just be present, because we can do that too. And if we can do that too, then we're not really going against our own nature anyway. So it comes down to just simply being, and a return to simplicity, despite all of these complex thoughts. Use our words and use our ideas as tools, not as end all be all. We lose ourselves in words. Why not use science and use words to help illuminate or point the way to just, simply being? And if we can change, if we can become something different, so be it. But before we can become anything, we have to accept what is. And I guess that's it for this video. So thanks for listening.